Well, Turkey's keeping up the pressure on Israel. Preliminary autopsies of the victims there now claim to show that most of the people killed were shot at close range and in the head. And these words from Prime Minister Recep Tayyip Erdogan late on Friday, quoting from the Bible, which he called Israel's own language. He focused on the sixth commandment, thou shalt not kill, and even translated it into Hebrew. Well, let's join Mike Hanna. He's in Istanbul. Of course, Mike, as you actually have seen and heard word coming out from the Turkish authorities about these autopsies, what more do we know about what was said in those reports?
Well, the statement, a verbal statement, was made by the Turkish Council of Forensic Medicine, which is the body associated with the Ministry of Health. And I must precede it by saying it was made very clear that this is a preliminary report. The full results of the autopsies will be released within the month. But certainly the results of that autopsy, as stated by the Forensic Medicine Council, is that 9 people, all 9, were shot at close range. 5 of them suffered bullet wounds to the head. A couple of examples were given. 19-year-old Volkan Dogan, one of the dead, was shot 5 times from less than 45 centimeters. A 60-year-old Ibrahim Bilgan was shot 4 times in various parts of his body. In all, there were 30 bullet wounds among the 9 who were killed. And the very disturbing detail as well is that 5 of those dead were shot either in the back of the head or in the back, the indication that they were moving away rather than towards. But these are preliminary details. More, the full autopsy will be released, as I said, within the month. But there are some, those who survived still have details as well of what happened, and some of them are in a hospital in Ankara, and they were visited by Anita McNaught. Here's her report.
The last passengers from the Mavi Marmara arrive at hospital in Turkey. 2 men, up till now too badly injured to fly out of Israel. Their lives still hanging in the balance. Inside, as medical staff treat their injuries, Al Jazeera is the first TV network to speak at length with the wounded. Of the 24 injured brought to Ankara's Ataturk hospital, 5 remain in a critical condition. Among those we spoke to, there's incredulity that the Israeli soldiers could have reacted as violently as they did. Muharrem Güneş says he was trying to shield a wounded cameraman when he too was shot in the head. Miraculously, the bullet missed the major artery when it passed out of his neck.
From close range, they determined with their laser pointers that I had not been shot. My left cheek was turned toward them, so they shot me in the face. I've lost 6 teeth on one side.
Mustafa Batuman has severe internal damage after he was cornered by commandos on the top deck, he told us.
The people who shot me were 2 Israeli soldiers, standing about 1 meter from me. From 1 meter away, they fired at me as if shooting a chicken.
Sadruddin Furkan was another volunteer, up with the captain when soldiers from the helicopter came to take over the bridge. They shot him 3 times in one leg and again on the other foot.
They were shooting in all directions. I felt a deep pain in my leg. It began bleeding. They shot me from behind.
His wife, Dilar, had 2 days not knowing if he was alive or dead, then heard he was in an Israeli hospital.
It felt absurd that they would shoot him, then treat him. Why are you shooting people if you're going to have to treat them afterwards?
From the neighboring bed, Suat Koshmaz recounted how he tried to keep the Israeli soldiers from boarding the ship.
Sure, we were protecting ourselves with fire hoses. We were trying to spray pressurized water at the Zodiacs. That's when they shot me.
The commandos who shot him, he told us, fired from a deck 2 stories above. Would you go again?
Yeah, of course. Of course. We don't afraid die.
If the Israeli government hoped their operation on the Mavi Marmara would be a deterrent, it seems to have had the opposite effect.
If another expedition happens, I would let him go. In fact, I want to go together with my husband.
And from Ismail Yeşildağ, shot in the back, a challenge to other governments in the region.
I want to give a message to the Arab leaders. Stop acting against the wishes and thoughts of the Arab people and start acting the way your people want.
Greetings to Hamas, on with the resistance is this man's parting shot. Many of the injured are deeply religious. These events have not only radicalized them further, but put most of Turkey behind them. Anita McNaught, Al Jazeera, Ankara.
Mike, it seems now that as more forensic detail is emerging, more live testimony from the survivors also being recounted for an international audience, this war of words perhaps between Israel and Turkey will continue, and seething anger on the streets of Turkey as well.
Well, yes, as all of that, the anger has been demonstrated throughout the days since the attack occurred. Now, interestingly enough, from the Turkish government, there are various strands of reaction. The foreign minister has throughout this, from the time that he was in Washington at the beginning of this particular crisis, has been delivering statements that are measured generally, that are calling for calm, that are attempting to keep the situation under control in terms of a reaction, clearly intent on rejecting any form of knee-jerk reaction. The Prime Minister, on the other hand, has been less temperate in terms of his reactions, and the speech that he made yesterday in Konya, that's a town in central Anatolia, was very fiery rhetoric indeed, calling Israel a terrorist state, and importantly as well, using this particular phrase, and I will quote, "Pictures from all over the world showing Zion's star flying alongside swastika flags are the results of Israeli government acts." Now, these are carefully chosen words, perhaps delivered with a great deal of rhetoric, but the fact that the Prime Minister is making statements like this, associating in whatever way Israel's acts with those of the Nazis, is an extremely inflammatory position. So what we are having from Turkey are two sides: calm reason from the Foreign Minister and very fiery rhetoric from the Prime Minister.
Indeed, worrying times. Mike Hanna in Istanbul, thank you. And of course, Mike will be following events in Turkey for us throughout the day, as will our colleagues across the region. These are live shots from Port Ashdod in Israel. This could well be the final arrival point for the Rachel Corrie, the Irish merchant vessel that's on its way to Gaza. No word from the ship or its passengers for the past few hours. We are expecting to see that ship, and when we do, we'll be bringing you live here on Al Jazeera.